Well, we now shift our attention to the United Kingdom, where Russian spy vessels are brazenly probing UK waters, exposing potential weaknesses in the UK's defence. Speaking in the UK Parliament, Defence Minister John Healey said Yanta, a Russian spy vessel used for intelligence and mapping critical infrastructure on the sea floor, entered UK waters on Monday. And the UK Navy tracked it for 2 days until it entered the Dutch waters. Healey said that the Russian ship entered the UK exclusive economic zone about 72 kilometres off the UK coast.
I changed the Royal Navy's rules of engagement so that our warships can get closer and better track the Yanta. So far, the ship has complied with international rules of navigation.
Healey further said that this is the second time that Yanta, which is a Russian spy vessel, has entered British waters in recent months. In November last year, the ship was detected loitering over UK critical undersea infrastructure.
But, Mr. Speaker, this is the second time that Yanta has entered our waters in recent months. In November, the ship was also closely watched and detected loitering over UK critical undersea infrastructure. To deter any potential threat, I took measured steps then as part of a clear direct response to the Russian vessel.
Incidents of potential sabotage of power cables, telecom links and gas pipelines have increased in the Baltic Sea, and that is following the outbreak of the Russia-Ukraine war in 2022. But the frequency has increased recently. Since November last year, there have been at least 3 incidents where underwater cables have severed in the Baltic Sea. Meanwhile, Russian ships are also having a similar impact on NATO. In the Gulf of Finland, elite divers and submersible drones are being sent to the seabed to probe potential sabotages. Well, as a part of the Operation Baltic Sentry, a NATO mission to patrol and protect gas pipelines and internet cables in the Baltic Sea. A fleet of ships, including a Dutch frigate, a German mine hunter, a Dutch survey vessel, a Swedish warship and a French minesweeper are also reportedly expected to arrive soon. Furthermore, the UK has also decided to send maritime patrol and surveillance aircraft to help NATO's efforts. Now, with Healey stating that the UK would also deploy an advanced AI system to help safeguard undersea infrastructure, while the UK extends support to NATO, the situation is not so straightforward, especially domestically. UK military preparedness has reportedly crumbled. According to UK's Internal Ministry of Defence calculations, the country needs to increase defence spending to 3.6% of GDP, a staggering 56% increase from current levels, to modernize its military, protect its nuclear deterrent and also meet NATO obligations, which in light of the UK's stretched finances is reportedly impossible. And the situation for UK gets grimmer. In March last year, the Deputy Chief of Defence Staff admitted that UK forces could not sustain a conflict with Russia for more than 2 months. And that is due to major resource shortages, adding that the country does not have the ammunition and the reserves of equipment to fight a prolonged war. His comments came just a few months after an inquiry by the Commons Defence Committee, which found that UK's armed forces were not ready for a war with Russia, especially without urgent reforms to reverse a recruitment crisis in the country and also to dramatically strengthen Britain's stockpile of weapons and ammunition. The UK is clearly at a very critical juncture. It may have to invest heavily in defence or face risks of further Russia incursions. Russia is testing UK's boundaries, probing its defences, and at this moment finding them wanting. We now shift our attention to Palestine. The war that raged in Gaza has subsided, but the battlefield seems to have shifted to West Bank. The recent ceasefire in Gaza brought a momentary sense of relief for the Palestinians. For more than a year, Gaza was under relentless bombings, leaving over 47,000 people dead. and displacing nearly the entire population. But just as one part of Palestine seems to cool, another has ignited. Reports from the West Bank reveal a sharp escalation in violence as Israeli military operations and settler aggression intensify. Just hours after the Gaza ceasefire took effect on January 19th, Israeli forces began constructing new checkpoints across the West Bank, reportedly cutting off farmers from their lands while sealing civilians living in cities like Hebron and Bethlehem, to reportedly preventing Palestinians from gathering and rejoicing prisoner releases who were let go in a swap for Israeli captives held by Hamas as a part of the deal. Simultaneously, Israeli settlers are seizing the moment. They have expanded illegal outposts and launched violent attacks on Palestinian villages. These outposts, often deemed unlawful under both international and Israeli law, they continue to grow unchecked. Local rights groups allege that Israeli settlers, under the protection of the military, are setting homes and vehicles ablaze and also thrashing the residents. Well, earlier this week, settlers attacked two villages in the northern West Bank as well as villages further south in Mazafir Yatta and around Ramallah as well. This surge in violence coincides with shifting global dynamics. In the United States, newly inaugurated President Donald Trump has already signaled a departure from past policies. His administration lifted sanctions on groups linked to extremist settler movements and also key figures opposed to Palestinian statehood. They now occupy influential positions. Experts suspect a quiet deal may have been struck with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to halt the war in Gaza and perhaps turn up the pressure in the West Bank. This measure, though, may have been taken for political reasons alone. You may wonder why. Because, reportedly, the potential for an Israeli operation in the West Bank as well as the growth of illegal settlements could have been done to incentivize Israel's far-right finance minister, Bezalel Smotrich, so that he could perhaps remain in Netanyahu's frail coalition, rather than pull out and collapse the government as a way to go against the ceasefire in Gaza. Smotrich is known to be a vocal advocate for expanding Israeli control of the West Bank. In West Bank's Jenin refugee camp, Israeli forces launched a major military operation on Tuesday. The operations continued for the third day in Jenin and surrounding areas. At least 12 people have been killed and 40 injured so far in the operation. The IDF forces reportedly told local media that the operations in the camp are expected to continue for the coming few days as well. Experts meanwhile warn that all these escalations are only the beginning. The International Crisis Group predicts a further surge in Israeli military campaigns aimed at quelling any kind of Palestinian resistance. Palestinians in the West Bank now live under constant threat. For many, the memory of Gaza's destruction looms large, fearing that they too may have a similar outcome. The West Bank stands at a perilous crossroad at this point of time. The rise of TikTok has sparked a lot of debate about its safety, especially for children and teenagers. The video sharing app exposes children to violent and harmful content online, and in one such heart-wrenching incident, a 15-year-old girl killed herself after she was repeatedly shown self-harm content on TikTok. Recalling the unfortunate day, her mother, Stephanie Mystery, described how her day went from light to darkness in a fraction of a second when she found her daughter lifeless in the bedroom where she died by suicide. Mystery has blamed TikTok for her daughter's death and alleged that the algorithm on the video sharing app kept on promoting suicide methods and tutorials, engaging users to go beyond mere suicide attempts.
3 years ago, I had no idea what kind of content social media platforms were pushing towards my daughter. If I had imagined that the content had to do with child sexual abuse, rape, physical violence, violence in general, ways of killing oneself and promoting suicide, you can imagine that. And she already had limits on her screen time. I would have never given my blessings for this application.
Sur les moyens de se donner la mort.
While she goes on to say that her daughter was bullied and harassed at school, but it was TikTok that amplified her emotions and brainwashed her, further compelling her to kill herself. Mystery and 6 other families are now suing TikTok France, accusing the video sharing app of failing to moderate content and exposing children to harmful material. Meanwhile, TikTok has said that its guidelines forbid any promotion of suicide and that it employs 40,000 safety professionals worldwide. The company has further said that it refers users who search for suicide-related videos to mental health services. In yet another incident, a mother in Florida is suing Character AI, which introduces word-based games to its offering of initiating abusive and sexual interactions with her teenage son and encouraging him to take his own life as well. The lawsuit accuses Character AI of negligence, wrongful death, as well as intentional infliction of emotional distress. Well, according to the lawsuit, the young boy had started showing extreme dependency on the AI app. He would sneak his phone or find any other devices to continue using the app. Sometimes he would also give up his snack money to buy the monthly subscription. In all these cases, the parents have blamed TikTok or any AI-based app for the death of their child. However, scientists have not yet established a clear link between social media and mental health problems, further outlining that there are perhaps no current studies that suggest that TikTok is more harmful than any other rival apps such as Snapchat, X, or even Facebook.
The platform should enforce a real tool to assess the age of the users, and that's really something that we need to kind of push forward. It's not acceptable that basically there are even children under 13 years of age who are massively using those social media.
While most teens use social media without any major harm, the real risk lies with those already facing challenges such as bullying or family instability. In other news, the world's largest iceberg, called A23a, is on track to collide with a remote UK island. The iceberg is reportedly heading north from Antarctica towards South Georgia in the southern Atlantic Ocean, further threatening to disrupt lives of millions of penguins and seals that call it home. If the trillion-ton slab of ice gets stuck, the iceberg could make it hard for parents of baby penguins to feed their young, and some could even starve. The fragmented pieces of the iceberg could float around South Georgia for years, jeopardizing the fate of penguins and seals. The UK Antarctic Survey has said that A23a would likely break up and melt upon reaching South Georgia. However, satellite images show the iceberg still intact, unlike previous icebergs which disintegrated into pieces.
In the next 2 to 4 weeks, that the current will take it to the margins of South Georgia, to the continental shelf, where the water becomes much shallower and there's a chance of it grounding. So the current should take it around, but such a huge mass has a lot of momentum behind it, and so there is a possibility it may run aground and become stuck there.
Scientists say that what is happening is more spectacular than dangerous. This phenomenon will lead to more fresh water entering the oceans, altering the marine currents and ecosystems. A23a first broke off in 1986 and has been penned in a crowded patch of sea ice for decades until a few years ago. While carving icebergs is common, it is happening more frequently because of human-caused climate change. The Indian government has sent a notice to cab aggregators Ola and Uber in response to complaints about different pricing for Android and iPhone users. How do companies use this as a strategy? The practice of device-based pricing, in which prices and rates alter dependent on the user's smartphone, is causing ride-hailing applications and e-commerce platforms to come under fire and scrutiny. Well, Ola and Uber, two prominent rideshare companies, have been issued notices by the Department of Consumer Affairs about allegations of disparity in pricing. Well, this is a strategy in which a company sets different prices for the same item based on differing customer types, types of purchase, and various other reasons. In the latest on Ola and Uber, they allegedly charge different fares, different prices to clients depending on whether they use an iPhone or an Android phone to make the booking. Consumers have hit back against this difference in pricing by cab aggregators with proof on social media last month. Social media posts showed rideshare companies charge different rates for the same trip depending on whether the customer used an iPhone or an Android. Prahlad Joshi, Union Minister of Consumer Affairs, Food and Public Distribution and New and Renewable Energy, tweeted on Thursday that his department is working with the Central Consumer Protection Authority, CCPA, to look into all these allegations. A lot of users took to social media to express their dissatisfaction with the fact that compared to users with Android phones, iPhone users were charged more money for the same journey. In response to a news story regarding discriminatory pricing last year, Joshi had said that there will be zero tolerance for consumer exploitation. Some users brought a similar problem with food delivery and quick commerce apps to the attention as well. The minister has ordered the Department of Consumer Affairs to probe other sectors such as food delivery and online ticket booking apps. The allegations range from different pricing driven by AI based on income, gender and location, as well as these apps have such data readily available with them. Device-based pricing is quietly widening the digital divide. The price-sensitive Indian market and consumer confidence are taking a hit as premium gadget owners are hit with price hikes. The problem revolves around algorithmic pricing, a potent weapon used by internet companies. Now, these examine a wide range of customer data, including but not limited to location, device type, spending habits and buying history. Because an iPhone is a symbol of affluence. The algorithm pushes the prices up on the idea that people with these devices, with iPhones, are ready to spend more. However, in response, Uber denied the allegations and said it does not set ride prices based on a user's phone model. And Ola is yet to respond to the videos of these allegations on social media.